Well, it's Groundhog Day again, and that must mean we're here on Whiskey Whereabouts, talking about reviewing this Glenallachie 10-year cask strength. It's still just one batch a year, isn't it? We're not here to review batch 7. I already did that on the channel. What we're here to do is review batch 8. I'm going to review batch 8, compare the two head to head. I gave a pretty high grade to this whiskey when I reviewed it on the channel. Is this batch 8 as good? Is it maybe even better? We're going to find out. My whiskey journey has taken me to Scotland and back. I've explored whiskey education, tastings, and distilleries from Islay to Speyside. And now my journey continues here, with you, on Whiskey Whereabouts. So as Groundhog Day has come to signify a phenomenon where you sort of repeating things over and over, but you have an opportunity to do it a little differently each time. I have chosen, since this episode is coming out on February 2nd, to observe this day with a follow-up on a batch-specific whiskey that I previously reviewed on the channel. And this is that whiskey, if you haven't seen my review, and this was batch 7 that I reviewed on the channel. I now have my hands on batch 8. If you're in the UK, you're probably trying to figure out what is taking so long. They're on to batch 10. We are not that far along yet. So for several batches, the sort of cask configuration has been the same. We do not know the ratios, but it is Oloroso sherry, PX sherry, Rioja wine casks, and virgin oak. Okay, so as you know, we do not have the sort of Billy Walker Glenallachie distillate matured along enough in the warehouse to make it into these core releases yet. And so the game so far has been recasking and combining different cask matured stock in that warehouse into these different releases. And so with the cask strength core range whiskey, we have a real nice opportunity to sort of showcase some of that cask influence. And here we have batch 8. And batch 8 is at 57.2%. It's a little bit hotter than batch 7 was. And I'm going to go in on the nose. So I had plenty of time to breathe. Chocolate sweet. Hits you, immediately on that nose. There's orange here. It's oily, like a little nuttiness. It's not hot, especially for 57.2%. There's something there. There's an alcohol there. You breathe it in sort of deeply because it doesn't seem hot at all. And you'll get a little wave of it. It's certainly not off-putting. That was one of the things about batch 7 that was so remarkable, was how that sort of cask strength ABV just did not come off the whiskey as hot at all. Yeah, the longer that I'm sitting with it, the sort of more that sort of traditional sherry influence that I'm getting off the whiskey. I'm getting the sort of raisin, dried fruit type of notes going in on the palate. Yeah, the finish is pretty long. It's really has sort of cascade of waves, but working our way back to the palate. Dark chocolate now. Orange, kind of a syrupy. As you sit with it, in that sort of mid palate, you're getting a little dusting of that sort of black pepper, little bit from the ABV. It's not really hot still, but there is a liveliness to it, and you're getting some of this almost coffee it's developing into with some honey. Going back for that finish one more time. Similar flavors. Chocolate, toffee, orange, raisin, some nuttiness, chocolate-covered nut, maybe. It's the hottest part of the experience. Not too hot, especially at this ABV. Warming in the sort of chest, and the sort of flavor keeps kind of coming, keeps kind of echoing along in little waves. Stays with you. Sort of nuttiness, a little bit of oak, not really bitter, but woody, with that chocolate kind of sliding toward mocha kind of coffee on the finish. Not a lot of suspense in terms of a grade or rating. I gave 7, the highest rating I've given on the channel, the 5 glasses. And I think the whiskey, the sort of core range 10-year cask strength, is a 5-glass whiskey. The question here is one sort of significantly better, worse than the other? I've seen a lot of folks, including some whiskey YouTubers, who were a little down on the 7 relative to some of the other batches. To me, it's a very strong whiskey, and so even the worst Beatles record is still better than a lot of other sort of alternatives. So here we're going to try to figure out which of these maybe is the sort of stronger version of this already pretty fantastic whiskey. I've had a lot worse days on the channel than having to taste these two whiskeys side by side like I am today. So I'm going to go back in here very quickly to remind myself what the experience on 7 is like. And there's two things that jump out of this whiskey as a primary elements. It's much stickier brown sugar, almost like a brown sugar reduction, dense, with a sort of a dark berry, dark fruit flavor. I associate that with a sort of European wine cask. I know there's a Rioja cask here. So going in on the palate again, just to remind myself, this is rich. It's rich. It is dark. It is sticky, sweet. It's lush. The other thing about this whiskey is that it is sort of a magic trick. Where is the heat from this ABV? This one is going to come in at 56.8. So we're less than half a point to get that density of flavor without a lot of heat. Made this very, very sippable. I don't normally sit and drink 56-57% without adding water. It just doesn't have the heat. This one doesn't really either. A little plume, probably on that first sort of neat sip, on the sort of neat finish on number 8. It's kind of like a remix album, okay? So it's like Let It Be and Let It Be Naked, right? This is Let It Be. Lush strings, lush, rich. This one's brighter, nuttier. It's not as dark. I'm sort of working my way back from the experience here to the casks that I know are already here. But this one really feels like a lot of PX with that sticky brown sugar sweet and a lot of the Rioja. This one feels more Oloroso sweet. I'm getting that orange, getting that raisin. It's in the mix. That virgin oak is having an influence, especially on the finish. So where do I come out? 7 versus 8. It's just different batches of the same whiskey, and they are really, really close to me. While I was sort of thinking about where I'm going to land, I hit 8 with a little water. And wow, the chocolate sort of just coming off this with some water sitting in it. It is sweet. It's rich, just absurdly drinkable, with the water for this ABV. This is over 57%. And there is still just that little warmth, when you have it. The half a point makes a difference, at least in these two batches. Overall, I would say the chocolate is really milk chocolate with the water. There's a lot of it. The rest of the sort of experience is still there. It also makes it really approachable, really, really drinkable. So there's no problem adding a little water to this whiskey, make it a little bit sort of more drinkable when it's at this cask strength. So that's with the water. But 7 versus 8 is really a close race. So I think it depends. What's your vibe? Are you in a sort of revolver sort of vibe today, or are you in a sort of White Album sort of vibe today? Do you want to have a little bit more of a challenge sort of pick apart, or do you want to just sort of relax at the end of the day and sort of indulge into those sort of big flavors like 7 has? If you told me I could take home one of these and not the other, I think I may take the 7. And I know that a lot of people would disagree and call me crazy, but there's just something about those sort of big, rich, bold flavors with that sort of just real sort of approachability and drinkability that I think was really, really special about the 7. But I certainly would never turn down a bottle of the 8. So if you enjoyed this video and you thought it was helpful to you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the future videos that are coming. You can use this big sort of button that's going to be popping up right over here, and I will see you on the next one.